Your company may be losing thousands of dollars through its HSA contribution, not because the contribution is too generous, not because the benefit is badly designed, but because of when the money is deposited. If your company funds the full annual HSA contribution in the beginning of the year, an employee can leave a few weeks later and take that entire contribution with them. In this episode, I'm going to show you one simple example where changing the funding schedule preserves over $7,000 without lowering the annual employer contribution. The problem may not be how much you give, it may be when you give it. My name's Erica Kirby. I've spent years doing the benefits work that often gets reduced to one clean sentence on a leadership slide. The payroll feeds, the carrier files, the funding reconciliations, the employee questions, the why doesn't this number match conversations that somehow in some way tend to happen at 4:57 p.m. on a Friday. So this channel is for the benefits administrator doing the real work, especially when nobody properly trained you to do it. And today we're talking about benefits that can hide in plain sight. If this is the type of information that you're looking for, I encourage you to like and subscribe. Okay, so now let's get into the 5 points. Point number 1. Nobody told me that HSA money generally belongs to the employee once it is deposited. When an employer deposits money into an employee's health savings account, that money is the employee's account. It's not the employer's. So the employer cannot normally pull it back simply because the employee resigns, is terminated, or changes medical plans later. That makes the HSA different from any employer-owned reimbursement arrangement. Think flexible spending account. Once that money lands in their health savings account, the employee can take that account with them, which is an incredible tool. And from an employee's perspective, that portability is one of the greatest things about a health savings account. And it's actually the feature that made me fall in love with them. But from an employer's perspective, it creates a funding decision that deserves more attention than it usually gets. Because if you deposit the entire annual contribution in January, you are making a full year investment in someone who may not remain employed for the full year. And that is a pause and a thought for a good conversation to have. That may still be the right decision for your company, but it should be an intentional decision. Not something you continue doing simply because that's what everyone has expected and become accustomed to. Once HSA money is deposited, employee turnover does not reverse the contribution. Deposited HSA funds leave with the employee. And that's something that we have to keep in mind. Point number 2. Nobody told me that a generous benefit can still have an expensive funding schedule. I want to be clear about this. I am not telling employers to reduce their employer contribution amounts. That's one of the wonderful things about a health savings account. It's just something that if it's not done in the right way could have a devastating consequence for everyone. A strong employer HSA contribution can make a high deductible medical plan much more usable for employees. It can help with prescriptions, it can help with January deductible, it can help someone who is hit with a medical expense before they had time to build savings. An employer contribution can literally save the day. That is very much something that we have to keep in mind. But the question is not automatically, should we give employees less? The better question may be, should we give the same annual contribution on a different schedule? There's a big difference between changing the promise and changing the timing. If the company promises $1,000 for the year, employees who remain eligible throughout the year can still receive the $1,000. The employer is simply funding that amount gradually instead of placing the entire amount on day one. Funding timing changes the cash flow. It does not have to change the promise. Same annual contribution, different funding schedule. Point number 3. Nobody told me how quickly first quarter turnover can turn upfront HSA funding into lost money. Let's use a simple example. Imagine your company contributes $1,000 per year to each eligible employee's health savings account. Now imagine 10 employees leave during the first quarter. If the company deposits the entire $1,000 contribution at the beginning of the year, those employees may leave in January, February, or March, but the full employer contribution has already been deposited. Let's now compare that with funding. $1,000 divided by 26 equal pay periods is approximately $38.46 per check. After 6 pay periods, each employee would have received $38.46 multiplied by 6. That's $230 and some change per employee. Now, going back to the example of those 10 employees who left, that would have been a total of $2,307.60 that would have been contributed at that 6-month marker. If they were funded up front, that's $10,000 that was already given to them versus the per pay period funding of the $2,300. That's a different $7,700 for easy math. Keep in mind, whatever changes that you make, they don't start and stop on paper. You also too have to make sure you understand how your systems need to be redesigned and how payroll needs to be impacted in order to make this dream come to reality. So, this is why I tell benefits administrators to pull the actual data before making assumptions. A funding method can sound harmless until you place termination dates beside contribution amounts. 10 early departures can turn a small funding decision into a $7,692 budget problem. $10,000 upfront versus $2,307.60 through payroll. Potential difference, almost $7,700. And if your company is struggling in today's environment, that type of money is going to add up really quick, especially depending on your employee size. So from the trenches, here's how this sounds in corporate benefits language. We should evaluate whether an alternative employer contribution cadence would improve plan efficiency. Here's what that means when you're the person doing the work. Are we depositing a full year of money for employees who leave in February? That's the question. And you do not need a 47-slide strategy deck to begin answering it. You need the HSA contribution report. You need the termination report. You need payroll dates, and preferably a really good cup of coffee. So when you hear that corporate speak, contribution cadence, the real speak is how much money went out the door when the employee left. That's simple. Point number 4. Nobody told me that per paycheck funding can protect the budget without punishing the employees who stay. One concern employers may have is that per paycheck funding feels like they're taking something away. But employees who remain eligible through the year can still receive the full annual contribution. Using our example, the employee would receive approximately $38.46 each pay period across 26 pay periods. That's $1,000 approximately. The total benefit is still there. The company is simply aligning the contribution with active payroll and ongoing eligibility. That can make forecasting easier. It can reduce the amount tied to early departures, and it can create a cleaner relationship between what is budgeted and what has been actually funded. It also gives the benefits team a better story when finance asks why the HSA contribution expense does not match the active employee population. Because believe me, eventually someone will ask. Usually after the budget has already been approved. So repeat after me. Per paycheck funding follows active employment while preserving the full year value for employees who stay. Protect the budget without reducing the annual budget. And finally, point number 5. Nobody told me that the financially smarter option may still create an employee experience problem. This is where we have to be honest about the good, the bad, and the ugly. Per paycheck funding may reduce employer leakage, but upfront funding gives employees immediate access to the money, and that matters. Imagine an employee enrolls in the high deductible health plan, had surgery in January. If the company normally contributes $1,000 up front, the employee has that money available when the bill arrives. Under a per pay model, the employee may only have received one or two employer contributions. That can make a major difference to somebody who does not have personal savings available. This is why I would not walk into a meeting and say, per paycheck funding saves money. We should automatically do it. You need to look at your plan design. There are some very important questions that you have to look at. How much does the employer contribute? And when does employees typically incur claims? Does the company want to provide a partial seed amount at the beginning of the year? Could the employer do a hybrid approach potentially? For example, the company could provide part of the contribution up front and fund the rest through payroll. You also need to review the process with your HSA administrator, payroll team, broker, and let's not forget that almighty benefits counsel before changing the funding method. The spreadsheet math matters, but employee reality matters too. Because at the end of the day, we are serving the employees, our counterparts, our teammates we are working beside. And we want to do right financially by the company, but we also want to do right by our teammates in which we serve. A cost-saving strategy is not smart if it creates a bigger problem for employees who need the benefit. Balance employer savings with employee access. So if you enjoyed those 5 points, don't forget to hit like and subscribe. And now let's think about what are our next action steps. First, pull the employer HSA contribution report. Second, pull the employee termination report. Third, pull the payroll calendar. Then identify employees who left during the first quarter. Calculate how much employer HSA money had already been deposited for those employees. Next, calculate what the company would have funded through their actual termination dates under a per paycheck schedule. The difference is your potential funding exposure. Do this for 1 year, then do it for 2 or 3 years if the data is available. You may find that upfront funding is still the right choice. You may find that upfront funding is not the right choice. You may find that a hybrid contribution makes more sense. Or you may find a meaningful amount of money that can be redirected without reducing the annual benefit. That is the kind of analysis benefits administrators should be doing, not because you are trying to take benefits away, because protecting the benefits budget helps protect the benefit itself. So let's read a lot of wonderful information about HSA funding. Here are the 5 things that you need to remember. So quick and high level. Number 1, deposited money stays. Number 2, timing and amount are different. Number 3, turnover creates exposure. Number 4, employees who stay still receive the full amount. And number 5, employee access still matters. I put a full calculation and the visual breakdown on ericakirby.com so you can see the numbers step by step. And if you're doing the benefits job nobody trained you for, join the Hive. You're going to get some great tips and tricks. That is where I share practical help for the people actually running benefits, not just talking about them. And you can find both on ericakirby.com. Just remember, nobody told many benefits administrators to look for savings inside the HSA funding schedule. But once you run the numbers, you cannot unsee it. The problem may not be how much you are giving. The problem may be when you are giving it. Next week, I'll break down another benefits cost that can look completely normal until you pull the report and do the math. I'm Erica Kirby, and I make benefits make sense. I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of your day. And remember, don't change who you are for anybody. You are special, and you are called, and you are here for a reason.